Michael Jackson, Part 3. Following the death of HIV and STDs, one of Jackson's spokespersons and friend, Jackson pleaded with the Clinton administration to give more money to HIV and AIDS charities and research, and performed Gone Too Soon, a song dedicated to White and Heal the World at the gala. In January 1993, Jackson performed at the Super Bowl 27 halftime show in Pasadena, California. The NFL sought a big-name artist to keep ratings high during halftime. Following dwindling audience figures, it was the first Super Bowl whose halftime performance drew greater audience figures than the game itself. Jackson gave a 90-minute interview with Oprah Winfrey on February the 10th, 1993. He spoke of his childhood abuse at the hands of his father. He believed he had missed out on much of his childhood, and said that he often cried from loneliness. He denied tabloid rumors that he had slept in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber or bleached his skin, and stated for the first time that he had vitiligo. After the interview, Dangerous re-entered the U.S. album charts in the top 10 more than a year after its release. In August 1993, Jackson was accused of child sexual abuse by a 13-year-old boy, name not mentioned, and his father, name also not mentioned. The little boy described in detail what Jackson was being accused of. While the boy's mother initially told police that she did not believe Jackson had molested him, her position wavered a few days later. Jackson's older sister, LaToya, accused him of being a pedophile. She later retracted this, saying she had been forced into it by her abusive husband. Police raided Jackson's home in August and found 2 legal large-format art books featuring young boys playing, running, and swimming in various states of address. Jackson denied knowing of the book's content and claimed if they were there, someone had to send them to him, and he did not open them. Jordan Chandler gave police a description of Jackson's genitals. A strip search was also made, and the jurors felt the description was not a match. In January 1994, Jackson settled with the family out of court for a reported total sum of $23 million. The police never pressed criminal charges, of course, citing a lack of evidence without the boy's testimony. The state closed its investigation on September 22, 1994. Jackson had been taking painkillers for his reconstructive scalp surgeries, administered due to the Pepsi commercial accident in 1984, and became dependent on them to cope with the stress of the sexual abuse allegations. On November 12, 1993, Jackson canceled the remainder of the Dangerous tour due to health problems, stress from the allegations, and a painkiller addiction. He thanked close friend Elizabeth Taylor for support, encouragement, and counsel. The end of the tour concluded his relationship with Pepsi Cola, which sponsored the tour. In late 1993, Jackson proposed to Lisa Marie Presley, daughter of Elvis Presley, over the phone. They married in La Vega, Dominican Republic in May 1994 by civil judge Hugo Francisco Alvarez Perez. The tabloid media speculated that the wedding was a publicity stunt to deflect Jackson's sexual abuse allegations and jumpstart Presley's career as a singer. Their marriage ended little more than a year later, and they separated in December of 1995. When filing for divorce the next month, Presley only sought to reclaim her maiden name as her settlement. After the divorce, Judge Perez said they lasted longer than I thought they would. I gave them a year. They lasted a year and a half. In an October 2010 interview with talk show host Oprah Winfrey, Presley revealed that she and Jackson had attempted to reconcile intermittently for 4 years following their divorce, and that she had traveled to different parts of the world in order to be with Jackson. In June 1995, Jackson released the double album His Story, Past, Present, and Future, Book 1. The album debuted at number 1 on the charts and has been certified for 8 million shipments in the U.S. It is the best-selling multi-disc album of all times. With 20 million copies sold worldwide, His Story received a Grammy nomination for Album of the Year. The New York Times reviewed it as the testimony of a musician whose self-pity now equals his talent. The first single from His Story was Scream, Childhood. Scream, a duet with Jackson's younger sister Janet, protests the media's treatment of Jackson during the 1993 child abuse allegations against him. The single reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and received a Grammy nomination for Best Pop Collaboration with Vocals. The second single, You Are Not Alone, holds the Guinness World Record for the first song to debut at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. It received a Grammy nomination for Best Pop Vocal Performance in 1995. In late 1995, Jackson was admitted to a hospital after collapsing during rehearsal for a television performance caused by a stress-related panic attack. In November, Jackson merged his ATV music catalog with Sony's music publishing division, creating Sony ATV Music Publishing. He retained ownership of half the company, earning $95 million upfront as well as the rights to more songs. Earth Song was the third single released from His Story and topped the UK singles charts for 6 weeks after Christmas 1995. It became the 87th best-selling single in the UK at the 1996 Brit Awards. In 1996, Jackson won a Grammy for Best Music Video Short Form for Scream, and an American Music Award for Favorite Pop Rock Male Artist. Jackson promoted His Story with the His Story World Tour from September 7, 1996 to October 15, 1997. He performed 82 concerts in 5 continents, 35 countries, and 58 cities to over 4.5 million fans, his most attended tour. It grossed $165 million. During the tour in Sydney, Australia, Jackson married Debbie Rowe, a dermatology assistant who was 6 months pregnant with his first child. Michael Joseph Jackson, Jr. was born on February 13, 1997. His sister, Paris Michael Catherine Jackson, was born a year later on April 3, 1998. Jackson and Rowe divorced in 1999, and Rowe conceded custody of the children with an $8 million settlement. In 2004, after the second child abuse allegations against Jackson, she returned to court to reclaim custody. The suit was settled in 2006. At the turn of the century, Jackson won an American Music Award as Artist of the 1980s. In 2000, Guinness's World Records recognized him for supporting 39 charities, more than any other entertainer. In September 2001, two 30th anniversary concerts were held at Madison Square Garden to mark Jackson's 30th year as a solo artist. Jackson performed with his brothers for the first time since 1984. The show also featured Maya, Usher, Whitney Houston, Destiny's Child, Monica, Lisa Minnelli, and Slash. After the 9/11 attacks, Jackson helped organize the United We Stand, What More Can I Give benefit concert at RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C. on October 21, 2001. Jackson performed What More Can I Give as the finale. On January 9, 2002, Jackson won his 22nd American Music Award for Artist of the Century. Beginning in May 2002, a documentary film crew led by Martin Bashar followed Jackson for several months. The documentary, broadcast in February 2003 as Living with Michael Jackson, showed Jackson holding hands and discussing sleeping arrangements with a 12-year-old boy. He said that he saw nothing wrong with having sleepovers with minors and sharing his bed and bedroom with various people, which aroused controversy. He insisted that the sleepovers were not sexual and that his words had been misunderstood. On December 18, 2003, Santa Barbara authorities charged Jackson with 7 counts of child molestation and 2 counts of intoxicating a minor with alcoholic drinks. Jackson denied the allegations and pleaded not guilty. The People v. Jackson trial began on January 31, 2005 in Santa Maria, California, and lasted until the end of May. Jackson found the experience stressful and it affected his health. It convicted he would have faced up to 20 years in prison. On June 30, 2005, Jackson was acquitted on all accounts. After the trial, he became reclusive and moved to Bahrain as guest of Sheikh Abdullah. In December 2009, the Federal Bureau of Investigation released files on Michael Jackson. These files revealed the Bureau's role in the 2005 trial and the 1993 allegations against Jackson, among other revelations. The FBI found no evidence of criminal conduct on Jackson's behalf. In early 2006, it was announced that Jackson had signed a contract with the Bahrain-based startup 2C Records. Nothing came of the deal, and 2C's CEO, Guy Holmes, later said it was finalized. That October, Fox News reported that Jackson had been recording at a studio in County Westmeath, Ireland. It was not known what Jackson was working on or who had paid for the sessions. His publicist stated that he had left 2C's by then. In 2007, Jackson and Sony bought another music publishing company, Famous Music, LLC, formerly owned by Viacom. The deal gave him the rights to songs by Eminem and Beck, among others. That March, Jackson visited a U.S. Army post in Japan, Camp Zama, to greet over 3,000 troops and their families. In September 2007, Jackson was still working on his next album, which he never completed. For the 25th anniversary of Thriller in 2008, Jackson and Sony released Thriller 25, with 2 remixes released as singles, The Girl Is Mine, 2008, and Wanna Be Startin' Somethin', 2008. For Jackson's 50th birthday, Sony BMG released a series of greatest hit albums, King of Pop, with different track lists for different regions. In 2008, Fortress Investments threatened to foreclose on Neverland Ranch, which Jackson had used as collateral for his loans. Fortress sold Jackson's debts to Colonial Capital. In November, Jackson transferred Neverland's ranch title to Sycamore Valley Ranch Company, a joint venture between Jackson and Colonial Capital. The deal earned him $35 million. Jackson arranged to sell a collection of more than 1,000 items through Julian's auction house. On the eve of the first public exhibit, Jackson canceled the auction after earning between $200 million to $300 million of initial sales from a series of concerts to be held in London. The London residency was increased to 50 dates after record-breaking ticket sales. Over 1 million were sold in less than 2 hours. The concerts were to run from July 13, 2009 to March 6, 2010. On June 25, 2009, less than 3 weeks before the first This Is It show was due to begin in London, with all concerts sold out, Jackson died from cardiac arrest, caused by a propofol and benzodiazepine overdose. Conrad Murray, his personal physician, had given Jackson various medications to help him sleep at his rented mansion in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles. Paramedics received a 911 call at 12:22 p.m. and arrived 3 minutes later. Jackson was not breathing and CPR was performed. Resuscitation efforts continued en route to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center, but were unsuccessful, and Jackson was pronounced dead at 2:26 p.m. Pacific Time. Jackson's death was caused by a propofol overdose. News of his death spread quickly online, causing websites to slow down and crash from user overload, and putting unprecedented strain on services and websites including Google, AOL Instant Messenger, Twitter, and Wikipedia. Overall, web traffic rose by between 11% and 20%. MTV and BET aired marathons of Jackson's music videos, and Jackson's specials aired on television stations around the world. MTV briefly returned to its original music video format and aired hours of Jackson's music videos, with live news specials featuring reactions from MTV personalities and other celebrities. Jackson's memorial service was held on July 7, 2009 at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, preceded by a private family service at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hall of Liberty. Over 1.6 million fans applied for tickets to the memorial. The 8,750 recipients were drawn at random and each received 2 tickets. The memorial service was one of the most watched events in streaming history, with an estimated U.S. audience of 31.1 million and a worldwide audience of an estimated 2.5 to 3 billion. Mariah Carey, Stevie Wonder, Lionel Richie, Jennifer Hudson performed at the memorial, and Smokey Robinson and Queen Latifah gave eulogies. Al Sharpton received a standing ovation with cheers when he told Jackson's children, "Wasn't nothing strange about your daddy. It was strange what your daddy had to deal with, but he dealt with it anyway." Jackson's 11-year-old daughter, Paris Catherine, speaking publicly for the first time, wept as she addressed the crowd. The Reverend Lucius Smith provided a closing prayer. Jackson's body was entombed on September 3, 2009, at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Criminal investigations and prosecutions of Conrad Murray in August 2009, the Los Angeles County coroner ruled that Jackson's death was a homicide. Law enforcement officials charged Murray with involuntary manslaughter. On February 8, 2010, in late 2011, he was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter and held without bail to await sentencing. Murray was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Jackson won 4 posthumous awards, including 2 for his album Number Ones, bringing his total American Music Awards to 26. In the year after his death, more than 16.1 million of Jackson's albums was sold in the U.S., and 35 million albums sold worldwide, more than any other artist in 2009. He became the first artist to sell 1 million music downloads in a week with his 2.6 million song downloads. Thriller, Number Ones, and The Essential Michael Jackson became the first catalog albums to outsell any new album. Jackson also became the first artist to have 4 of the top 20 best-selling albums in a single year in the U.S., following the surge in sales in March 2010. Sony Music signed a $250 million contract with the Jackson estate to extend their distribution rights to Jackson's back catalog until at least 2017. It had been due to expire in 2015. It was the most expensive music contract for a single artist in history. In 2014, Jackson became the first artist to have top 10 single in the Billboard Hot 100 in 5 different decades. The following year, Thriller became the first album to be certified for 30 million shipments by the RIAA. A year later, it was certified 33 times platinum, after SoundScan added streams and audio downloads to album certifications. The first Jackson song, This Is It, co-written in the 1980s with Paul Akin, was released in October 2009. The surviving Jackson brothers reunited to record backing vocals. It was followed by a documentary film about the rehearsals for the canceled This Is It tour, Michael Jackson's This Is It, and a compilation album. Despite a limited 2-week engagement, the film became the highest-grossing documentary or concert film ever, with earnings of more than $260 million worldwide. In 2012, in an attempt to end a family dispute, Jackson's brother Jermaine retracted his signature on a public letter criticizing executors of Jackson's estate and his mother's advisors over the legitimacy of his brother's will. T.J. Jackson, son of Tito Jackson, was given co-guardianship of Michael Jackson's children after false reports of Catherine Jackson going missing. Escape, an album of unreleased material, was released on May 13, 2014. A duet between Jackson and Justin Timberlake titled Love Never Felt So Good was released in 2014, making Jackson the first artist to have a top 10 single on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 in 5 different decades, with the single reached number 9. Later that year, Queen released a duet record with Jackson and Freddie Mercury in 1980. A compilation album, Scream, was released on September 29, 2017. Post-death child sexual abuse allegations. In 2013, choreographer Wade Robson filed a lawsuit allegedly that Jackson had sexually abused him for 7 years, beginning when he was 7 years old. In 2014, a case was filed by James Safechuck, allegedly sexually abused over a 4-year period from the age of 10. Both had testified in Jackson's defense during the 1993 allegations. Robson did so again in 2005. In 2015, Robson's case against Jackson's estate was dismissed on the grounds of being filed too late. Safechuck's claims was also time-barred. In 2017, it was ruled that Jackson's corporations could not be held accountable for his alleged past actions. Jackson's album sales increased following the documentary screenings. Billboard senior editor Gail Mitchell said she and her colleague interviewed about 30 music executives who believed Jackson's legacy could withstand the controversy. In late 2019, some New Zealand and Canadian radio station re-added Jackson's music to their playlist, citing positive listener survey results. Jackson had been referred to as the King of Pop for having transformed the art of music videos and paving the way for modern pop music. For much of Jackson's career, he had an unparalleled worldwide influence over the younger generation. His influence extended beyond the music industry. He impacted dance, lead fashion trends, and raised awareness for global affairs. He is recognized as the most successful entertainer of all time by Guinness World Records. He is considered one of the most significant cultural icons of the 20th century, and his contributions to music, dance, and fashion, along with his publicized personal life, made him a global figure in popular culture for over 4 decades. Trying to trace Michael Jackson's influence on the pop stars that followed him is like trying to trace the influence of oxygen and gravity. So vast, far-reaching, and was his impact, particularly in the wake of Thriller's colossal and heretofore unmatched commercial success, that there weren't a whole lot of artists who weren't trying to mimic some of the Jackson's formula. BET said Jackson was quite simply the greatest entertainer of all time, whose sound, style, movement, and legacy continues to inspire artists of all genres. In 2003, the Daily Telegraph writer Tom Utley described Jackson as extremely important and a genius. Although with many others having lovely things to say about the King of Pop, at Jackson's memorial service on July 7, 2009, Motown founder Berry Gordy called Jackson the greatest entertainer that ever lived. During the 1990s, as Jackson lost control of his troubling life, his music suffered and began to shape an arc not merely of promise fulfilled and outlived, but of something approaching tragedy. A phenomenally ebullient child star tops himself like none before, only to transmute abruptly into a lost weirdo. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have on Michael Jackson. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Bye.
All of this is research found on the internet.